Hey there, guys. So, when I started playing Mage, I started with Mage the Awakening. In this was the World of Darkness version, so this was before Chronicles of Darkness and the God Machine were released, and I was told by my storyteller, the primary storyteller of the time, about the previous edition of the game, that being Mage the Ascension. And apparently Mage the Ascension was ridiculous. Like, completely ridiculous. There was just no no reason for being as powerful as they are other than your reality bending wizard. Which I guess is a fairly reasonable reason to be able to break the game with a brand new character. And I'm fairly certain that's why they moved on from things like Mage the Ascension. But that doesn't mean that you can't still do that in Mage the Awakening, and I kind of want to do some arcane theory to see if there's not a spell that we can't do the same with the Acanthus today. Alright, so I'm going to need some setup here. So, in Mage the Awakening, when you attain a certain level of knowledge in each arcana, you gain attainments. These attainments are like special little nice abilities that you can add to your spells. With the Acanthus in specific, at time 2, you get Temporal Sympathy. This allows a mage to cast a time spell at the past of a subject. The mage must be casting the spell on the subject as it exists now, at a sensory range, unless you have space, and use a sympathy yantra. Now, the spell is withstood by the fragility of the temporal sympathy. You'll need to get the book in order to figure out what that is, and it's leveled up by 1 if the mage does not know the sympathetic name of the subject. And so you can cast a spell on someone before you saw them right now, which, I mean, that sounds pretty insane. I think that might legitimately allow you to snipe into a person's past. And it also costs 1 additional mana. I personally would say, like, you probably can't cast directly damaging spells into the past, but that's just me. If you as a storyteller and your players are cool with that, good luck. Good luck keeping any of your players alive against a Acanthus at that point. But what I'm interested in here today is the fate conditional duration got at 2 points of fate. So, you can spend a point of mana to add a conditional duration to a spell. Doing so adds factors to the spell's duration based on the nature of the condition. An improbable condition adds a level of duration. An infrequent condition adds 2 levels of duration. A common condition adds 3 levels of duration. So, what are the levels of duration, you might wonder? Let's take a look at the spell factors here. Give me a sec. So for a standard duration, it goes, the base duration is 1 turn, then 2 turns, then 3 turns, then 5 turns, then 10 turns, with an additional 10 turns per additional tier. There is a way to make spells have a longer duration by using a reach. You can use the advanced duration chart. So then it goes from 1 scene or hour to 1 day to 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, and then indefinite at a -10. And there's a reason for all of this. So we're going to use that conditional duration on a hung spell. So at level 2 of time, an Acanthus can hang a spell. With this spell, the mage captures the pure essence of magic at the moment before it enters the fallen world, suspending them before they take effect, but preserving their duration from the decay. So, you cast a hung spell with a conditional duration. You cast it to have a very common occurrence, such as being hit, or taking damage. I would say personally, that sounds like a common occurrence. You might argue that it's not quite a common occurrence, in which case it goes to +2 tier, and then you just make up the difference by lowering your die pool. And it specifically says at the end of Hung Spell, you can add a conditional duration to Hung Spell so that it releases the trap spell in response to set conditions. Now, we're going to hang a spell with this. So the next time we get hit, we're going to have this spell go off. And the spell we're going to have go off is called Shifting Sands. Shifting Sands puts you back in time by 1 turn. And this spell is ridiculous. Now, let's be fair here. It's not 1 turn. The spell sends the subject back a number of turns equal to the potency of the spell. But if you're not enhancing for potency, you're only going to have a potency of 1. It's only going to be 1 turn. The subject retains any injuries and conditions gained in the undone turns, and spent mana and willpower don't return. Now, you might think, what's the point of setting yourself back a turn if you're just going to take the damage anyway, right? We're not going to cast this spell on ourselves. You see, what we can do is, if we go back to our spell factors, we're going to come on down here, down to range. Range is how far the spell can be cast. Spells either require the mage to touch her subject or be in sensory range of her subject to cast. Mages with 2 dots in time or space can use attainments to cast on subjects past existence or across the world via sympathetic ties. Or you can go with, potentially, scale, how large the spell is. Mages must decide when casting whether they are targeting specific subject or blanket area of subject. Aim spells must use area of effect centered on wherever the mage aims. Now, this one might be up to the interpretation of your storyteller. And I would certainly understand why a storyteller would say no to this. But my interpretation here is that if you have a hung Shifting Sands that targets the attacker or the area immediately around you, if you're using scale, and does not include you as the target, or if you have spell resistance to it somehow, that what happens at that point is the spell goes off, right? And it hits the target and sends them back in time 1 turn. Now, that turn resets for you, but not that target. So the question for your storyteller then becomes, because you've now reset, does that mean that the hung spell is still there? It wouldn't generate additional paradox because it was cast who knows how long ago. I mean, it was cast 3 months ago. I haven't been hit in the last 3 months. It's not going to generate additional paradox for back then. No, it's just going to keep being recast. But here's where we get to be clever. If the storyteller then says that, no, that hung spell is now gone, you then get to ask another question. So, what if I attack him? Or what if I trigger one of his fate condition spells and I send myself back in time? Because being equal and fair there, you could disable another person's conditional duration spell on purpose and then go back in time before they know it's going to happen and break through. This could be really useful against a conditional counterspell, a conditional hung counterspell or something like that, where you really need to put someone down and you don't have a way to do it. So, a challenge for storytellers out there. Would both scenario A and B be effective? Would you allow for me to disable another person's hung spell by sending myself back in time? Or would you allow for my hung spell to stick around every time I send someone else back in time? Something for you to ponder, and I am excitedly awaiting anyone who's willing to answer and why. Thanks for watching. I am planning on putting out more Arcane Theory videos for one sort of ridiculous spell or sort of a broken bit of mechanics for each of the paths. I don't know what I'm going to do for the orders. I'm going to try some sort of Arcane Theory thing for them, but I might actually not do Arcane Theory pertaining specifically to them, but to other mechanics. If you're interested in this, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button, and also share this with any storytellers you might know who you think would like to take this for a ride. Or, maybe try it yourself, and then when your storyteller goes, no, that's stupid, share this video with them. In the meantime, this is Alex at 10 again, and I'll see you in the next video.